It's about 8:15 local time here in Daytona Beach, Florida, as we welcome you back to our live Speed Channel coverage of the 42nd Rolex 24 at Daytona. Things beginning to settle into the long, long night to come before daylight and the run to the checkered flag here at Daytona International Speedway. Looks like someone missed the chicane entrance. Continues on their way. They've gained a competitive advantage. There's a penalty in their immediate future. You notice the chicane there. They're not using that extension of racetrack to the right of your screen. That was added last year to slow the superbikes, the AMA superbike motorcycles that come here during Bike Week at Daytona, which wraps up Speed Weeks in the month of March, to keep the bikes from getting up to too great a speed on the 31-degree banking of Daytona International Speedway. It's a long way before we'll find out who will win the Rolex 24 here at Daytona, but we asked some of the old hands how you go about winning a race like this one.
There's no feeling like winning a 24-hour race.
It's the best feeling of the world. I mean, you know, even if the prize money are better value than the Rolex you put on your hand, the watch, it's like a trophy, and it's a trophy you keep forever.
It's such a mental release, and it's very emotional for the whole team. I mean, there's a lot of tears and silly stuff that comes out because everybody's so damn tired.
You know, I've been fortunate. I've won a lot of races, but winning the Rolex was certainly one of the highlights. Yeah, it's really, really good. I think it would be even better to win it again.
It's a hallowed ground here, but to be able to come and participate in this race in itself is special. To do it as a team owner and proudly present your wares to the world is another whole part of it. But to win, it makes it even better.
Well, that was actually some of the former winners of this race telling you what it's like. Of course, anybody who gets to the end of a 24-hour race is a winner. Let's get back up to the booth now. Lee, Dorsey, and David.
That was true, Bob. But anybody that gets to the end is a winner. Not so.
I always said that second place here wasn't worth doing. You work so hard, only a win makes it worthwhile.
Second place is not worth doing anyway.
This car is the third place car. Wayne Taylor, we just heard from him in that tape item there. The owner and the guy who put this all together, and as he mentioned before to Calvin, this has all come together in 90 days, this program, and they've done a stunning job to be sitting in the top three, running well just ahead of Scott Pruitt, then the second Howard Moss car, and Scott Sharp now behind the wheel of the 59 Porsche powered fab car for Brumos.
I wonder why they put that red light on the back firewall of that number 10 car. You would think that'd be extremely annoying to the driver to have that red light shining on the windscreen from behind.
You would think it would be perfect. Well, we haven't noticed that particularly on our board, but I mean, it must be.
You think it's a high brake light or something? It looks like it would really annoy me from behind.
Seems like it's on all the time, they do.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. And it's bright enough for us to be seeing. You know it's got to reflect on the windscreen on the inside, especially with all this rain and debris on the windscreen.
Do you need some kind of dim light in there to see around the cockpit?
That's a good point. I mean, a lot of these shift lights that come on these fuel lights that come on, you have to put a piece of tape over them or something so they don't just completely blind you. Because, I mean, like a fuel light might be on a couple of laps, but a shift light comes on every time you hit the rev, you know, the soft touch rev limiter. And those things are just really, to me, an annoyance. And you would say to me, David, don't hit the shift light, right? I figured I'd get that in before you did.
Let's take a look at Scott Pruitt attack these 6 cars up ahead.
Oh, look at them all going into turn one, just where he didn't want to catch him.
Yeah, that's what Scott Pruitt's saying right now. Great. This is just what I want.
Now they've got even more. There's another prototype there. That's the Essex Racing car right in the middle. Scott's already done with 2 of them, weaving his way through. Sports cars have been such an important part of his stellar career, and he's thrilled to be back in them. And in a full-time program like this one, he will do every single round of the Rolex Sports Car Series. Still to find out who he will be teamed with as of the next race. Will it be the young Mexican Luis Diaz or the older Mexican Jimmy Morales? We'll find out when we get to Miami.
Just imagine as Max said when he got out, you know, the visibility is just atrocious. You don't know whether the wheels are on the track or on the grass. And when he's going through this gaggle of traffic, I'll tell you, that's when your visibility is at the absolute worst. And of course, you're being blinded, just like we are right now with the lights, you know, coming back, the brake lights, the rear lights, and the trackside lights.
Mike Hull was telling me before, obviously we know the pedigree of the Ganassi guys, whether it be in the NASCAR Nextel Cup or in the Champ Cars or IRL. Sports cars and just its nature, it is a slightly different bag. I was asking about the team, the personnel, whether any of the team had experience. And he said, well, we specially selected several guys to join our open wheel guys, which are on the team. It's a nice mix. He said there's about 3 guys that have had experience with the likes of Bob Julius, Al Holbert, have really had some good experience. So to help train these other guys that have been in open wheel racing.
You know, it's not like on the highway where when you follow someone, you dim your headlights. These headlights are much more powerful than the street car headlight, and they're on full shine the whole time. You know, and they come up behind you, David. You can actually feel the heat.
Yeah, exactly. See your own shadow on your own windshield.
Yeah, it's annoying, and you don't want to look at it, but you need to know who's back there. That's the other part of it.
This is Scott Pruitt's second stint in the Rolex 24 at Daytona, the first round of the Rolex Sports Car Series for 2004. And yes, he has been around a long time.
And paid his dues, buddy, let me tell you.
I guess I'm aging myself because when you look at, 83, 84 my first year, and now 20 years later, I'm still doing this stuff. There's a lot of experience that goes with that. But there's a lot of great memories. You were just talking about that earlier. I mean, all the different marquees and all the different philosophies of some of the teams that came here with. I mean, Walkinshaw, gotta go. Just run that car hard. Just get it all the time. When I came here with Nissan, it was more, okay, let's set our pace. Let's get it going. Let's just work our way into the race and see where we're at. And it was one of the easiest races, probably the easiest race I've won here on the one overall. And then there's any of a number of things in between.
Well, of course, there are a lot of different philosophies, but those philosophies are changing a lot now in sports car racing because the cars are becoming, so reliable, so bulletproof, and so many of them are so fast. A lot of that strategy kind of goes out the window. I mean, you just can't set the pace and say, well, we're going to run it. We qualified at 146, so we're going to run at 152s. And we can win this thing because we'll still be here at the end.
The
you can't afford to do it. If you go down a lap or two just on sheer pace, you aren't going to be able to make it up at the end.
The technology has gone so far, particularly in these gearboxes. I mean, you used to have to pamper gearboxes. Now you have these, sequential shifting gearboxes. You don't have the failures that we used to have on the time.
Right. It's like Le Mans, the 24-hour race at Le Mans, just the same. I mean, it's a flat-out blind for 24 hours.
It's credit to these new teams and new cars in this series. 4 of the top 6. This is their debut race. Let's take a look at the standings as we go to a commercial break. Tony Stewart thoroughly enjoying his time in this Chevy-powered Crawford up front for Howard Boss Motorsports from the reigning champion. Then Wayne Taylor, Scott Pruitt, Jimmy Johnson has had a great stint ahead of JC France. The GT class, yes, it's still Orbit Porsche with Robin Liddell, followed by Flying Lizard Racing, Johannes van Overbeek, the GT class pole sitter from young Justin Marks. Actually, he has just handed over to Boris Said in the PTG BMW. Let's check SGS. Things haven't changed there either because it is still a 1-2 for Doncaster Racing ahead of the TPC Porsche. Young Mark Wilkins, his first 24-hour race, going great. Back at the Rolex 24 at Daytona, Speed Channel's live and exclusive coverage continues from here in Florida. You're looking at the GT race leading car with Scotsman Robin Liddell on board, and they continue to enjoy a 2-lap lead over the next closest GT car, which is the Flying Lizard Porsche with Johannes van Overbeek on board. Top 5 positions in GT, 4 different cars. It's 2 Porsches up front, but third in class is a BMW M3, fourth in class is a Ferrari 360, and fifth in class is one of the new Maserati Trofeos with Anthony Lazzaro. So a great spread there in the top 5 in the GT class, but for these guys, things didn't go so great earlier in the weekend when they were forced to qualify qualify outside the top 30 after failing to hand in their qualifying driver registration form. They went back. They were pretty disgusted about that. They insisted they did get it in on time, but Grand Am pushed them back, and they have come through, and they have been in the lead of this class for the majority of the race.
And the top GT car is only 8 laps off of the very front-running prototype car. So, I mean, 8 laps is nothing at this point of the show, I guarantee.
Well, I mean, they're lapping, like, at the moment in the rain, they're only lapping anywhere from 4 to 6 seconds a lap slow, which is incredible.
Big round of applause for Tony Stewart. Awesome job. Great stuff in the wet. His first stint in the Crawford. For Howard Boss Motorsports, and we've got a fire down there on pit lane. The 88 car, and this is not the first time this car has been in trouble today. Heavy contact earlier with the wall. The 88 now coming to a stop. And I think that's Miguel Amaral there, but let's get down to the race leading car, Cal.
Well, Tony Stewart, after a great job, jumps out, and it's going to be Andy Wallace jumping back in. Andy had a lot of confidence after his opening stint and what these two NASCAR boys could do, and boy, have they really done the job out there tonight. Very difficult conditions. They don't have a lot of experience, but as Dale Jr. said, Tony Stewart is a natural. He'll get out there, he'll do the job. We saw that within 2 laps. He was duking it out with some of the best in the business. So they could lose the lead here in this pit stop. This is routine thus far. Andy's bolted in. Very clean driver change that you'd expect from a veteran of this type of competition. He's won all of the big ones. He's won Sebring. He's won Le Mans several times. He's won here 3 times. So Andy Wallace is ready to go. Fueling's been done. It looks like a good, clean job. So the number 10 car whistles by this front straightaway and takes over the lead as Andy Wallace moves out of his pit box to go and chase that SunTrust car down.
We have got a race on our hands. This is sensational stuff. After 7.5 odd hours, and there is nothing between the two at the front, and only 5 laps separating the top 6 in this race, all Daytona prototypes.
Tony Stewart was running 2 and 3 seconds a lap quicker than all the rest of these guys. Right at the end of his stint there, he was flying, David.
And the weather, of course, as we know, has got worse in the last 20-odd minutes. Yeah, we've got a tremendous amount of rain lying around now, and he was just really humming along there, as you said, quicker than anybody else around him. 10 cars taking the lead on that pit stop, but they're so close together. As Lee just said, the next time this car stops, almost certainly the 10 car stops rather, it'll take the 2 car will take the lead back.
And that fire has been addressed with the ASM team Porsche.
I think they're in good shape, though. They might be pushing him behind the wall.
It's a bit like it.
They've had a tough opening 7.5 hours. Here's a replay of that.
Going along pretty good. It's under the right rear. And think how much water is getting dumped on that. So something's burning quite well. You see all the water pouring out of the side. Of course, it's all over the back of the car. So it's either an oil line or...
Probably the oil line, do you think? Yeah.
Something bad.
Oh, now they're pushing him back.
All right, GT contender is in pit lane. Van Overbeck in the car. Brian.
Routine stop for Van Overbeck. He did stall it on the way out, but that's not that big of a problem. Short run out of pit lane, too. They don't have to worry about speeding out of pit lane. They came in, brought the 54 car in, the DP car in. Andy Pilgrim got in that car, and oddly enough, they've got a blistering problem on the rain tires on the front end of that car. So that is very odd considering how cool and how damp it is right now to be blistering those rain tires up front on the 54 car.
Well, they must be awfully soft compound rain tires that are going to blister, because it's plenty wet out there. There's no dry line anywhere.
No, not at all.
Just to highlight the seriousness of this effort, they've got the money and resources. They brought a GT3 RS and a GT3 Cup car, tested it, qualified both cars, then made the decision on which car to run. We need to squeeze in a brief break here. There is your updated leaderboard. We will be back. We're taking you right through until 9 p.m. Eastern.
Welcome back to the 42nd running of the Rolex 24-hour here at Daytona. And one man a lot of these people came to watch this evening is this guy, Tony Stewart. Tony, first time in the rain, and boy, did you put on a great performance tonight. How did it feel?
It was fun. I'll be honest, I didn't know what to expect, and I didn't sound nervous before I got in, but I was pretty nervous. I knew Dale Jr. was running good times, and knew the car was capable of going fast. I just didn't know what to expect, and he'd run a little bit in the rain in the Corvette here a couple of years ago, but I just didn't really honestly know what to expect. But the car is so much fun. It's actually more fun in the rain than it is in the dry, because you can get it loose, you can get it tight, and really manhandle the car around in the ring.
A lot of the drivers throughout the day have complained about visibility issues. How is the Crawford, and how did you find out there?
Really, it's not bad for us. Max and the guys really did a good job in the construction of this car, and the way the air flows over top of the canopy there, it's you worry about it getting dirty, but the worst thing that had happened, something flew off of a car early in my first stint and tore the tear off of the windshield and started peeling it back, but it was peeling it back a little at a time, and it was doubling over itself. That made the visibility pretty tough. But once we came in at the end of the first stint and got tires and fuel, they cleaned the windshield, and no issues after that.
Big month ahead of you with Speedways coming up, and obviously the 500. Extending a week to that track, is that really a good idea? Do you get tired of driving through that tunnel every day?
The trick is just don't leave. You don't have to go through the tunnel every day. But no, it's nice to come to Daytona. I mean, everybody knows this is our biggest race of the year coming up in a couple weeks, and this is sports car racing's biggest race of the year here in the United States. So it's just an honor. We really have to thank the Citgo people a lot. They came on board at the last minute and really helped these teams out and gave them the funding they needed to really make us competitive. So we got to thank Citgo and just everybody at Max Crawford's operation. They have done such a great job giving 3 stock car drivers that don't have any time in these Daytona prototypes. They've made us feel very, very comfortable in the car and fast. So we got to thank all those guys.
All right, Tony, thanks a lot. Get some rest tonight.
All right, pal, thanks.
All right, let's go down to Brian Till with one of the other front runners this evening.
Well, to say Terry Borcheller's a front runner is kind of an understatement, reigning champion in this class, Terry, but things not going well for you after nightfall, off down in the bus stop. Notice when the car came in, some blistering on the front tires.
Yeah, we've got a pretty substantial push. I think the pressures were just up a little too much, and I made a mistake going out and just needed to be more focused with this type of weather on cold tires, but recovered from it. The team did a really good job, and still got a lot of racing to do. I'm glad there was no damage. I was feeling pretty bad. I mean, teams work so hard for such a long time, and to have something happen from the driver's standpoint to take you out of the race is really frustrating because there's a lot of people dependent on you. So we'll just keep plugging along.
This is the kind of professional you want in your car, guys. He knows it's a team sport. He's going to carry the weight on his shoulders when he makes a mistake.
Yeah, he does. He's a true fighter. But David and Dorsey, as we see our 6th full course caution now, and that's because of the Gunner Racing Fab Car. Quick question, just getting back to Tony Stewart. I know that you two did various things, but you're most well known for your exploits in sports car racing. For Tony Stewart to come from dirt track, from the midgets, to go into Indy cars, to go to NASCAR racing, now he's doing sports car racing, and he's very good at it. For all the years and all your experience, you must have an enormous respect for him at his just his flexibility and how quickly he can adapt.
I mean, the fact is they didn't do a lot of practice and qualifying time the other day. I mean, they've been here for a couple of days, but they didn't get a lot of laps in. And for him to just really, his first serious stint in the cars, to be A, wet, and B, dark, he put on an absolutely outstanding show, lapping just as quick as people who've been doing this for 5, 10, and 15 years. So really a quite outstanding display. But on the other hand, you look at somebody like Dale Earnhardt Sr., Dale Earnhardt Jr., Jimmy Johnson, Darrell Waltrip, Jeff Gordon. These are guys who are all just incredibly good race drivers, whatever you put them in. And the same would apply if you put a single-seater driver here down in Nextel Cup. If you give them, but they need a lot more time to adapt. These guys adapted super quick.
And I think that's the sign of a real true race car driver. Now, I mean, when you look back in history, not everybody could do that, but there was only so many Mario Andretti's and AJ Foyts that could come and go from champ cars into Indy cars into Formula One cars into sports cars. And obviously, there's a few more left.
There's your standings. We've got just under 20 minutes of coverage left. Stick around, because hopefully in that time we will go back to racing, and we'll take you right through to the top of the hour, 9 p.m. Eastern. We look down. Robin Liddell is still leading the GT class, and SGS class leader is still the Doncaster Porsche. Greg Pootman's behind the wheel doing a nice job. We'll be back.
Welcome back live to Daytona International Speedway, approaching the end of the 8th hour of the 42nd Rolex 24 at Daytona. I'm Bob Varsha. Don't forget, we'll rejoin you at 6 a.m. Eastern Time tomorrow to take you through to the checkered flag here at Daytona International Speedway. We are under caution for the 6th time in this race, and this may be a lengthy one. We're hearing from timing and scoring that some tire wall repair may be undertaken. As you can see, the rain continues to fall. The weather forecast says it may rain into the early part of next week here at Daytona, which may make this one of the wettest Rolex 24 ever. Now let's take a look at some of the highlights and lowlights of our first nearly 8 hours here on the air. It began, of course, with dry weather, cool temperatures, a light breeze. Scott Pruitt on pole. Black car of Max Angelelli tried to squeeze reigning Daytona prototype champion Terry Borcheller, but he was having none of it and went right to the front in this race. Contact came early and often. There's one of the Ferrari 360 Modernas going around, just in front of one of the Asco Super Grand Sport Porsches. Problems for Mike Borkowski, losing the right rear wheel. That was a problem we would see a lot of. Contact for Angelelli with Peter Argetsinger. That caused some right front damage to the race car. This was Craig Stanton going off on a restart with the cars still closely bunched. That car was not badly damaged, though, and has managed to get back into the race. And then the sister car, the number 17, tried to knock down the fence in the high-speed kink on the backstretch. But that was nothing compared to what defending overall race champion Kevin Buckler did when the right rear tire exploded on his car. Bill Overland was in the BMW M3 GTR when his left front wheel came off, and that has been the single largest mechanical problem thus far. The all-Portuguese team, Miguel Amaral, was behind the wheel when he had contact with the number 27 Daytona prototype and clouded the wall, part of a litany of problems for that all-Portuguese team. A little bit later on, as the skies began to darken, spins were the order of the day. And then more wheels coming off. A bizarre circumstance. That was Andy Wallace running at the race lead. Fortunately, he was able to get down the backstretch, through the chicane, and into the pit lane. That car currently runs in the race lead and leading the DP class. In hour 5, Dale Earnhardt Jr. doing great work in the wet, except for this little 180-degree pirouette. Robbie Gordon, fellow NASCAR star, had a bit more of a problem when he clouded the wall hard with the right rear corner. That led to a stay of over an hour and a half in the garage. This was Diego Alessi of Italy trying to thread the needle in his Ferrari and getting the worst of it. By far, the worst of it. Into hour 7. Just when it appeared the rain might stop, it began to rain heavier once again. And Tony Stewart, the 2002 NASCAR champion, who said he expected an interesting time in the damp in this Daytona prototype, the number 2 Citgo car, simply went out and ran faster laps than anybody. The man they call Smoke, very much a factor in this race. More contact for the number 10 SunTrust car with Angelelli, Collard, and Wayne Taylor, who've been running near the front all day long. And this was Terry Borcheller. Afterward, he said, I just got a little too aggressive on cold tires in the wet. He currently runs in 4th position. Here's a look at our race summary to this point. Andy Wallace is in the race-leading number 2 Chevy Crawford Daytona prototype. 3 cars officially out of the race, although we have had cars go to the garage, come back out, and rejoin, which they can do under Grand American rules. 22 lead changes total thus far among 9 cars, all of them Daytona prototypes. 6 caution flags. We are currently under our 6th for a total of 19 laps thus far. But as I mentioned, this one may go on for a while. Now let's get back up top to our race calling team of Lee Diffie, David Hobbs, and Dorsey Schrader.
And we're going to make the most of this full course caution, the 6th one in the event, to try and make communication again with the Southern Motorsports BMW Fab car, and Jack Baldwin is behind the wheel. Hey Jack, it's Lee Diffie, can you hear me?
Lee, I sure can, man.
Hey, after taking a year off and kicking your heels back in the announce booth, about time you got back and did some work.
Just some working stuff now, man. No more good life, no more, the nice dinners and the wine, no way. Gotta go to work now.
Hey, and you certainly are earning every penny tonight. It's tough work.
Yeah, man, it is snotty out here. It really is. And makes it real challenging. The big thing is being able to see, but and then you deal with the slickness too. But man, this is Daytona. If it was easy, anybody can do it.
You guys are making good, steady progress after dropping back quite a long way back earlier with some problems. You're up now to 17th, Jack, and you're just 15 laps back.
Yeah, it was some tough breaks for us. It happens to everybody, and you know, like last year, you know, you go to bed, you get up in the morning, and it's a lot of times it's very surprising how it ends up. And we just need to keep plugging along here and hope that some of the other luck's going to go the other way for us. So we'll see.
All right, just keep an eye out for paybacks out there after some of the things you said on the air about some of these drivers last year, okay?
I go by them, I touch my head, you know, so they can't tell it's me.
Be safe and good luck. Enjoy the rest of the way.
Hey, when he gets off there up that easy life up there in the booth, come on down, we got a driver suit that'll fit him. We're going to put him in here. I know he hasn't forgot how to do this.
All right, thanks, Jack. Time to squeeze in a quick break. Jack Baldwin in the Southern Motorsports car will be back. Hopefully we'll see green.
Speed Channel's coverage of the Rolex 24 at Daytona is brought to you by Porsche. Porsche, there is no substitute. By Rolex, the watch of achievers the world over. And by Axiom, the global leader in customer information management solutions. Let Axiom help you grow great relationships with your customers. The rain continues to pelt down here at Daytona International Speedway. Be sure to join us tomorrow at 6 a.m. Eastern Time as we carry you live through the end of the 42nd Rolex 24 at Daytona. Our apologies to those of you on the West Coast, but you know what? We're going to be here at the racetrack at 4 in the morning Eastern, so why not join us? We go back under green after our 6th full course caution of the day. The race leader is Andy Wallace. In second place is the Pruitt, Max Pappas, Morales, Dixon, Lexus-powered Daytona prototype. And then the Max Angelelli, Wayne Taylor, Emmanuel Collard car that spent some time with the engine cover off in the pit lane. And look at the traffic throwing rooster tails of water into the air as we restart this 24-hour race. Delicate minuet through the billiard table flat International Horseshoe. And then up to speed as fast as you dare, flashing through the left-hand kink and heading for the West Horseshoe. There's the number 44 GT car, Robin Liddell, born in Edinburgh, Scotland, now living in England, and running 7th overall, first in the GT class. Ahead of him are 6 Daytona prototypes. Behind him, another Daytona prototype, and then the 74 Porsche, the Flying Lizard team. Through the West Horseshoe, heading for the high banks. There's the SGS class leader, number 91, Greg Pootmans of Canada, putting in a long double stint in that car. He shares with Robert Julien, Jean-Francois Dumoulin, and German Mark Lieb. You can follow the progress of the race through the night, live timing and scoring at the Grand Am Road Racing website. And we will rejoin you at 6 a.m. Eastern Time to take you through to the finish. There is nothing like sunrise, even on a rainy day, when you reach dawn after what seems to be an endless night. And we'll have the full story of everything that happens through the night, get you up to speed for the run to the checkered flag in the 42nd running of this sports car classic that opens the North American road racing season, as well as kicking off Speed Weeks at Daytona. We've come to the time for final thoughts. Let's begin down in the pit lane with Calvin Fish.
Well, Bob, I think one thing that stands out this evening is the fact that two new teams to this form of racing this year, Chip Ganassi Racing and that SunTrust Racing team, have come out and put cars at the front of the field. That's really a testimony to the experience and all of the talent that they have on that team, that they can do that under these extremely difficult conditions this evening. Brian?
Well, I think the competition, you know, we've talked about that. It's run close the entire time, but I got to eat a little bit of crow. When the weather got bad, the #2 car, I didn't think that Junior or Stewart would be up to the challenge. They certainly were. Let's get back up to the booth.
Dorsey, where do you see this one going overnight? When we come back at 6, where do you see it?
I tell you what, I'm hugely impressed by it. We only have 3 cars out in this rainy conditions so far. The reliability is no problem with that. And I think the 2 up front, the Wallace car, the #2, and Pruitt's car 0-1 there, I think these guys are going to show the way now that they've opened up a 1-lap lead to the next.
Well, they've certainly got the cream of the crop driving them, there's no doubt about it. And it could be a race to the end. We've only seen one engine failure. The 27 car, the Door and Lister car, would have been going, but they made 2 serious mistakes and they're paying the price for it.
And they're still pushing hard, though. That Doran Lister is in 13th overall. As we roll through the standings, we've updated your DP. Now we look at the GT. And following on the SGS, it's still a Doncaster 1-2. Boy, have they been strong. It's been great having you with us for the opening 8 hours. We look forward to seeing you tomorrow, Bob.
All right, thanks very much, Lee. The top 3 cars are all on the lead lap, and then we have another car 1 lap down. But anything can happen through the night here at Daytona, and probably will. We'll have all the highlights for you in the morning, and then we'll take you through to the finish. Until then, for Lee Diffie, David Hobbs, Dorsey Schrader, Calvin Fish, Brian Till, and Chris Neville, I'm Bob Varsha. Join us again tomorrow at 6 a.m. Eastern Time for the concluding hours of America's Sports Car Classic, the Rolex 24 at Daytona. Until then, so long from Daytona International Speedway in Florida.
Of his stellar career, and he's thrilled to be back in them, and in a full-time program like this one, he will do every single round of the Rolex Sports Car Series. Still to find out who he will be teamed with as of the next race. Will it be the young Mexican Luis Diaz or the older Mexican Jimmy Morales? We'll find out when we get to Miami.
Just imagine, as Max said when he got out, you know, the visibility is just atrocious. You don't know whether the wheels are on the track or on the grass. And when he's going through this gaggle of traffic, I'll tell you, that's when your visibility is at the absolute worst. And of course, you're being blinded, just like we are right now with the lights, you know, coming back, the brake lights, the rear lights, and the trackside lights.
Mike Hull was telling me before, obviously we know the pedigree of the Ganassi guys, whether it be in the NASCAR Nextel Cup or in the Champ Cars or IRL. Sports cars and just its nature, it is a slightly different bag. I was asking about the team, the personnel, whether any of the team had experience, and he said, well, we especially...
Best feeling of the world. I mean, you know, even if the prize money are better value than the Rolex you put on your hand, the watch, it's like a trophy, and it's a trophy you keep forever.
It's such a mental release, and it's very emotional for the whole team. I mean, there's a lot of tears and silly stuff that comes out because everybody's so damn tired.
You know, I've been fortunate. I've won a lot of races, but winning the Rolex was certainly one of the highlights. Yeah, it's really, really good. I think it would be even better to win it again.
It's a hallowed ground here, and to be able to come and participate in this race in itself is special. To do it as a team owner and proudly present your wares to the world is another whole part of it. But to win, it makes it even better.
Well, that was actually some of the former winners of this race telling you what it's like. Of course, anybody who gets to the end of a 24-hour race is a winner. Let's get back up to the booth now. Lee, Dorsey, and David.
That was true, Bob. But anybody that gets to the end is a winner. Not so.
I always said that second place here wasn't worth doing. You work so hard, only a win makes it worthwhile.
Second place is not worth doing anyway.
This car is the third place car. Wayne Taylor, we just heard from him in that tape item there. The owner and the guy who put this all together, and as he mentioned before to Calvin, this has all come together in 90 days, this program, and they've done a stunning job to be sitting in the top 3, running well just ahead of Scott Pruitt, then the second Howard Boss car, and Scott Sharp now behind the wheel of the 59 Porsche-powered Fab car for Brumos.
I wonder why they put that red light on the back firewall of that number 10 car. You would think that'd be extremely annoying to the driver to have that red light shining on the windscreen from behind.
You would think it would be incurving. Well, we haven't noticed that particularly on our own board, but I mean, it must be...
You think it's a high brake light or something?
It's about 8:15 local time here in Daytona Beach, Florida, as we welcome you back to our live Speed Channel coverage of the 42nd Rolex 24 at Daytona. Things beginning to settle into the long, long night to come before daylight and the run to the checkered flag here at Daytona International Speedway. Looks like someone missed the chicane entrance. Continues on their way. They've gained a competitive advantage. There's a penalty in their immediate future. You notice the chicane there. They're not using that extension of racetrack to the right of your screen. That was added last year to slow the superbikes, the AMA superbike motorcycles that come here during Bike Week at Daytona, which wraps up Speed Weeks in the month of March, to keep the bikes from getting up to too great a speed on the 31-degree banking of Daytona International Speedway. It's a long way before we'll find out who will win the Rolex 24 here at Daytona, but we asked some of the old hands how you go about winning a race like this one.
There's no feeling like winning a 24-hour race.
Hey, it's really annoying me from behind.
Seems like it's on all the time they do.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. And it's bright enough for us to be seeing. You know it's got to reflect on the windscreen on the inside, especially with all this rain and debris on the windscreen.
Do you need some kind of dim light in there to see around the cockpit?
That's a good point. I mean, a lot of these shift lights that come on these fuel lights that come on, you have to put a piece of tape over them or something so they don't just completely blind you. Because, I mean, like a fuel light might be on a couple laps, but a shift light comes on every time you hit the rev, you know, the soft touch rev limiter. And those things are just really, to me, over an annoyance. And you would say to me, David, don't hit the shift light, right? Figured I'd get that in before you did.
Let's take a look at Scott Pruitt attack these 6 cars up ahead.
Oh, look at them all going into turn 1, just where he didn't want to catch it.
Yeah, it's just Scott Pruitt saying right now, great. This is just what I want.
Now they've got even more. There's another prototype there. That's the Essex racing car right in the middle. Scott's already done with 2 of them, weaving his way through. Sports cars have been such an important part